Daniel Steele, Family Ties. The next days were a total nightmare. She had to tell them. Lizzie was devastated. Ted hid in the garage after he heard the news. Katie cried inconsolably, and at first Annie had no idea what to do. She went to New London to speak to the police. The wreckage of Bill's plane was charred beyond recognition. There were no bodies, they had been blown to bits. Somehow she managed to make the arrangements. She held a dignified funeral for them, and half of Greenwich came. Bill's publishing associates came out from New York to pay their respects, and Annie had called her office and explained that she needed to take a week or two off and couldn't make the presentation. She moved into Bill and Jane's house and went back to the city to get her things. The new apartment she loved was history. It had only one bedroom, and she didn't want to uproot the children so soon. So she would have to commute to the city. Magdalena agreed to move in, and Annie had to adjust to the idea that suddenly she was a 26-year-old woman with 3 children. Jane and Bill had talked to her about it, that if anything happened to them, she would have to step in for them. Bill had no close relatives, and Annie and Jane's own parents were dead. There was no one to take care of them now except Annie, and all 4 of them had to make the best of it. There was no other choice, and Annie's vow to Jane the night before the funeral was to devote her life to their children and do the best she could. She had no idea how to be a mom. All she had ever been was a fun aunt, and now she would have to learn. She couldn't even imagine stepping into their shoes, and she knew she was a poor substitute for parents like Bill and Jane. But she was all they had. Seth had the grace to wait until a week after the funeral before he came to see her in Greenwich. He took her to dinner at a quiet place. He told her he was crazy about her, but he was 29 years old, and there was no way he could take on a woman with 3 children. He said he had had a terrific time with her for the past 2 months, but this was way over his head. She said she understood. She didn't cry. She wasn't mad at him. She was numb. She said nothing after he explained the situation to her, and he drove her back to the house in silence. He tried to kiss her goodbye, and she turned her head away and walked into the house without a word to him. She had more important things to do now, like bring up 3 children. They had become a family overnight, and Seth wasn't part of it and didn't want to be. She couldn't imagine a man who would. She had grown up instantly the moment the plane had hit the ground. 9 months later, in June, at the end of the school year, Annie moved them into the city, to an apartment she had rented, not far from the one she had just moved into when her sister died. This one had 3 bedrooms, and she signed the kids up in school in New York. Lizzie had turned 13 by then. Lizzie had turned 13 by then. Ted was 9 and Katie 6. Since she had been with them, Annie had done nothing but rush from work to home to be with the kids. She spent the weekends taking Katie to ballet and Ted to soccer games. She took Lizzie shopping. She started Ted at the orthodontist and went to school meetings when she wasn't working late. The architecture firm she worked for had been understanding about it, and with Magdalena covering for her, she managed to stay on top of her projects, and eventually she even got a promotion and a raise. Bill and Jane had left their children comfortably. Bill and Jane had left their children comfortably provided for. Bill had made some good investments. The house in Greenwich sold for an excellent price, and so did the one on Martha's Vineyard, and there had been an insurance policy for the children. They had what they needed financially, if Annie was careful with it. But they didn't have a mom. But they didn't have a mom and dad. They had an aunt. They were patient with Annie while she learned. There were some bumps and some sad times for them all at first, but in time they all got used to the hand they had been dealt. And Magdalena stayed. In time, Annie got them through high school, through their first romances, and helped them apply to college. By the time he was 14, Ted had decided to go to law school. Lizzie was obsessed with fashion and wanted to be a model for a while, and Katie had her mother's artistic talent. But unlike the rest of them, she marched to her own drummer. She used her allowance to get her ears pierced at 13, and then her belly button. To Annie's horror, she dyed her hair blue and then purple, and at 18 she got a tattoo of a unicorn on the inside of her wrist, which must have hurt like hell when she got it. And she was a talented artist like her mother. She got accepted at Pratt School of Design and was a very capable illustrator. She looked like no one Annie had ever known. She was tiny, fiercely independent, and very brave. She had strong beliefs about everything, including politics, and argued with anyone who didn't agree with her, and wasn't afraid to stand alone. She had been a handful in her teens, but eventually settled down once she got to college and moved into the dorm. Ted had his own apartment by then and got a job after college before he went to law school. Liz was working for Ellie, bringing up her sister's children and being Annie's vocation and full-time job. She had no other life but theirs and her work. At 35, Annie had opened her own architecture office. After 9 years with the same firm, she loved what she did and preferred residential jobs to the big corporate ones she had done for years. After 4 years in her own firm, she had found her niche, and she was stunned by how much she missed the children when they moved out. It gave the term empty nest new meaning, and she filled the void in her life with more work instead of people. She hadn't had a date for the first 3 years the children lived with her, and after that there had been some minor relationships, but never a serious one. She didn't have time. She was too busy taking care of her nieces and nephew and establishing herself as an architect. There was no room for a man in her life. Her closest friend, Whitney Coleman, scolded her to scolded her for it regularly. They had been friends since college, and Whitney was married to a doctor in New Jersey with three kids of her own, younger than the Marshall children. She had been a source of endless support for Annie and invaluable advice, and now all she wanted was for Annie to think of herself. She had thought of everyone else for 13 years. The time had moved like a buller the time had moved like a bullet in the night. The early years had been a blur, but after that, Annie had truly enjoyed the children she had raised. She had lived up to the vow she had made Jane, and she had gotten the children grown up, and all three were doing well. Now what? Whitney said to her after Katie moved into the dorm. What are you going to do for yourself? It was a question Annie hadn't asked herself in 13 years. What am I supposed to do? Stand on a street corner and whistle for a guy like a cab. She was 39 years old and not panicked about being single. She didn't mind. Things had turned out differently than she had planned, but she was happy.